Do I say my Insta name or my real name?
Your real name. So we can leave this in the video. I think it'd be funny. No? Okay.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Faiaz, photographer based in Sydney. Love doing street photos, love doing weddings. What did I drink this morning? I had a fancy iced latte and it's starting to kick in, so I might be mumbling today. But yeah, that's a bit about me. And
what are you shooting with today?
Hey?
What are you shooting with? Sorry, just the bus just went by. What are you shooting with today?
I'm shooting with my Fujifilm X-T5.
Yep.
I've got the 23mm f1.4. Love this setup, super light, super tactile, and yeah, quite fast as well.
Awesome. And where do you want to go?
I think I want to head to the Rocks today.
The Rocks? Okay.
Interesting architecture and stuff.
We'll give people a bit of a tour of. We've done the Opera House. We've done George Street.
Yep.
Let's do the Rocks.
Let's do it.
We were just talking this morning before we walked out. We're talking about styles, and you said to me that you don't think you have a very specific style that's you, which I kind of disagree with you a little bit there. I think you do have a bit of a style, but you do mix of things. You said you do weddings, you do products sometimes as well.
Yeah, I do a mix of everything. I think I love photography as a whole, so I experiment with different types of photography. So it started with just taking photos at people's 18th birthdays when I first got my camera back in the day. And then learned how to do long exposure, use a tripod, all those types of things. Went to Vivid religiously for like 10 years.
Same man, yeah.
Then I started doing weddings.
Okay.
Got a little side business happening. Saw some great opportunities, met some great people. From there, I started really liking getting into portraits work. And more recently, I've been getting into more street, cinematic style street photography.
Yeah.
I like bringing in some emotion into the photo.
Okay.
That makes you feel something, that makes you evoke some emotions or emotional responses.
Tell me about that. I'm curious because I'm picking up a theme. You're the fourth photographer I've spoken to on this series, and evoking emotion is something that comes up. So what are you hoping, when you say evoking emotion, what are you hoping to get from your audience?
Well, a photo I think is nothing without emotion. It's just like dead pixels, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what story am I trying to tell through the image, and what does that resonate with the viewer? So everyone's got a different perspective, but it's like if I'm doing street photography, what is that person's day going like? What are they up to? They're grabbing their morning coffee or they're reading the newspaper for the morning. What's their life, and how do I capture a snippet of that? Okay. And yeah, I think that's where the emotional part comes from, is that people can relate to things in different ways, and makes you maybe think of some old memories or think about your own life.
Yeah. I
I'm just
love
talking
that, man.
smack right now.
No. That's really good. Talking smack. No, I love that because I honestly, I go through, obviously I'll go on the street and I'll take maybe 300 or 400 photos and I'll come home and I'll go reviewing them. Should we cross or should we wait for this one before we get hit by a car? It is green and with jaywalk in Australia. Let's go quickly. Oh shit, hold up. Sorry.
Not the best idea.
My bad. We should get insurance for this show.
Yeah, please.
So I go through photos, and sometimes there are photos that I look at and I go, technically, they look great as a technical photo, but they are emotionless. Like I feel like what am I trying to tell with this story? Sorry, what am I trying to say with this photo? What story am I trying to sell? And I feel nothing. I'll just go delete, gone. It's not there because I don't want to sit there and simmer on it. And sometimes I see photographers out there who share photos like yours where it does just looks insane, but it does make me stop. It makes me want to look at it deeper and understand what was going on in that instance where you pushed the shutter button. So I love that. You talked about emotion evoking. It seems like it's a common theme with quite a few photographers. Okay, what are you looking for? So when you're out there and you're hoping to get someone or a photo, sorry, not someone, a photo that evokes emotion, what specifically are you looking for?
I think I start with the whole composition side of things. I do like to have people in there. I think people relate to other people, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So I like to have a human element in there when possible. Next, I try to see how can I capture that moment in the moment rather than getting it staged.
Okay.
Or rather than, I guess, posing someone. I would often wait at a particular point where I'll frame my shot and I'm waiting for someone to walk into it. I might be waiting for like 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then when that person walks in, you just snap away and then they might not even know I'm shooting. And I think that's the best part, is that they're just doing their thing, living their best life, and there I am shooting away. And often it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay. Which part, so there's a few things I want to ask you about that statement because I'm really curious. So to recap that, you wait at a part where you feel like there is an interesting frame, right? So you're looking for something that grabs your attention from a framing perspective.
Yep.
And then you wait for something interesting to happen within the frame.
Yeah.
Am I with you so far?
Yeah. So I'll use I'll look for lines, I'll look for contrasty areas, I'll look for interesting colors.
Okay.
And there might be a person wearing clothes that contrast nice with those colors. Good example would be in Japan, lots of neon lights everywhere, right? Neon lights everywhere, mainly in the green and yellow tones.
Yep.
I'll wait for someone who comes in wearing red. That might be a nice contrast.
Okay.
And then it just brings the eyes nicely to the photo, helps you just pick apart the image. And yeah, that's why I mean, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, in terms of the type of people that might walk in, or there might be a whole group that then ruins the shot. So yeah, it's a bit of luck involved as well, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to cross this way and we'll go straight?
There's our friend again.
Oh, this is a different friend.
Oh, this one's nicer.
So how long would you stay?
That's sick.
There's a pretty nice Ferrari behind us. How long would you stay in a scene that you like before you kind of give up and go, okay, I didn't get what I wanted, and go somewhere else?
I think I'll take my time. And that's why when I'm traveling with people or I'm not by myself, people get annoyed who aren't into photography. A lot of people will be like, yep, I've got the shot, and move away, but I like to be patient with it and really think about, did I get the most out of that shot before moving on to the next one? Okay.
How do you know you've got what you wanted before you move on? Because that's something I think about quite a bit. I try not to chimp. I try not to look at my screen, because that microsecond, that second that I've spent looking at my screen, that could have been the next opportunity for me to get the photo. So how do you know you've got what you wanted from that scene? What's that feeling like? Are you looking at your screen, or is there?
Most of the time I would review the photos on the spot. Okay. Looking through the screen or the viewfinder.
Okay.
Making sure that what I wanted to get in the frame is in focus and sharp. I usually shoot at least 10 to 15 photos. Okay. To make sure that I get that. Some a bit wider, some a bit more focused in, so I've got a various range of photos that I could then post-process. Okay. And yeah, I think when you nail it, you just know.
You just know.
And that doesn't always happen, but I like to chase that feeling. It's like when you know you've got it, you just know. Everything, all the elements of the photo just work together.
I love that. That's really good. The confidence in your ability to know that you've got something there.
And I'm still learning, right? It's not like I'm a professional by any means, definitely an amateur. But I think over the last couple of years, I've paid more conscious attention to these things. Okay. Whereas before, it was more around, was it in focus? Did I get a sharp picture? Did I nail the basics of the photo? that's what I would think about before.
Okay.
And now more like, does the photo have that emotion? And I like what you say about, does the photo have soul? And I think that's what I'm looking for these days more than just the composition side of things.
Love it, man. Love it. So you went from looking at photography as more of a technical art to now more of an emotional art, if I can rephrase it that way.
100%.
I love that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I remember I'm still pretty new to street photography myself, just over a year now.
Okay.
And some of the mentors I've got around me, I've been out with them, and taking a photo, I shoot in manual focus, so for me, I gotta manually focus on things.
Oh, wow.
And I've missed focus quite a few times, but they always have told me that focus isn't as important as the emotion you get from the photo, right? Because you can have a photo that isn't exactly sharp or the subject isn't exactly in focus. Just recapping that, just emotion is more important than having a technically perfect image out of it. So I'm with you on that one.
And I think it's a journey, right? Like a lot of the time when people first start photography, it's about, was the image clear? How clear was it? How sharp was it? It's like, oh, I've got this new so-and-so camera and it's so sharp and it's got X many megapixels and you fall into that. I'm guilty of it.
We're all guilty of that.
But these days, I think once you've gone through that phase and then you think about what's next and what really separates a good photographer from a great photographer. And I think that's where the emotional part comes in.
Love that, man. The constant reminder that I get from other thought leaders in photography is that the greats who came before us, decades before us, their cameras were nowhere near.
No, not at all.
Any of the cameras we have today. The sharpness, the dynamic range, the pixels, if they were shooting on digital, or even film. So it's a good reminder that yes, gear can definitely help, but that's not the most important thing.
Definitely not.
What are your thoughts? Like I know you and I talked about cameras before as well, but you do like to shoot on Fuji. What's the reason behind that?
I got into Fujifilm about a year ago now.
Yeah.
Before I was the biggest Canon fanboy you could find, all about Canon. And Canon's a great system, don't get me wrong. But the reason I like Fuji is because of the whole shooting experience, I would say. I love the manual dials, the whole retro vibe.
Yeah.
I think the look and feel of the camera suits the end result I'm looking to get as well.
Okay.
It's got that whole vintage, nostalgic vibe about it. And it's also a lot more tactile and small. So when you're shooting with a big, heavy, full frame camera and full frame lenses the whole day, you don't really, or for me anyway, you don't always want to shoot. It's more like you can, but I feel like the Fuji system makes me want to just go out and shoot more.
I love that, yeah.
It just feels good in the hand. I love the colors.
Just to note that this is not sponsored by Fujifilm.
No.
This is just a conversation.
No, not sponsored by Fujifilm.
No one's
but
paying us to say this.
If you guys are listening, hit me up.
What do you want? Do you want to keep going towards the rocks? Do you want to head down this way?
Okay, let's go this way.
This way?
A bit quieter, I think.
I think so. Let me give you guys a view of what we're looking at here. This is
Sydney's version of the Shard.
If I can get this in frame, there it is. Let's walk towards the water.
I haven't been out here in a while.
So there's a book I read a while ago, and it's about building habits. And I know there's a lot of photographers out there who talk about how difficult they find it to go out and shoot.
Yep.
And you touched on something. There's a car coming. Really important to me is that having a camera.
Yep.
And again, I know we've talked about the device, the gear isn't the most important thing, but I've always thought having a camera that inspires you, that enables you to go out and shoot is really important. And in that book, just so I can bring it back to that point I was trying to make, is they were talking about running and how runners sometimes struggle to want to get out in the morning, especially if you're running out. Sorry, especially if you're just starting out running.
Yep.
And the hardest part about getting to running is putting your shoes on.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of runners actually go to bed with their shoes on, which is crazy if you think about it.
That is crazy.
I'm trying to connect that idea of having your shoes on before you go to bed, so when you wake up in the morning, you don't have that one last barrier before you go out running, to having a camera that enables and inspires you to go out and make images. Got a bit of an alleyway scene going on
true.
here.
I can definitely see the connection in that and photography. You need to have a camera that inspires you to shoot. At the end of the day, it is a tool to achieve your creative outcome, but you need to find the tool that works for you.
What's the question that I'm just looking at the way you're shooting? How often do you shoot from using the screen, and how often do you shoot using the viewfinder?
Usually when it's portrait, I just look at the screen. I find it a bit easier. But when it's in landscape, I try to just use a viewfinder.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if I'm getting myself into really like interesting angles, especially when I'm doing weddings and like couples, I would use a screen more, because you can flip it out and you can do different things. And since it's a smaller camera setup, I can like get it into different angles and still see what I'm producing. I quite like that as well.
Nice. One thing actually I want to talk to you really quick, which, look, off camera, you just asked me how things were going with filming, if you don't want me to put you on the spot. And this has just been on my mind since you're the fourth photographer I've spoken to. Everyone's been different.
Okay.
Every style has been a little bit different. Every personality has been different.
Yep. So
I just want to make a statement. Look at those birdies. I love pigeons. Anyway, got distracted by pigeons. That's what happens to me when I go street photography. With this channel, I'm genuinely trying to grow a community, starting with Sydney and hopefully globally.
Yep.
But the one thing that's really important to me is authenticity and a unique perspective, because if we're all the same, it's just really boring, isn't it? Right?
Definitely.
If we all shoot the same thing, if we all have the same style, if we all speak the same way, are inspired the same way. So it's important to me to have a diverse groups of people who may struggle to be in front of the camera, people who may struggle to articulate how they're feeling, what they're thinking, their workflows, but I still want to make sure they have a voice, that they are being seen by others who are like-minded.
Very powerful.
So I feel like it's so powerful, because I used to struggle. I genuinely used to struggle to speak in front of a group. You put a camera in front of my face, I would have started to just get nervous, sweat, and just melt away like a warm piece of butter.
Yeah.
So your thoughts, if you have any, if you don't, it's totally fine, because your style is quite different to the people I've spoken to so far, and we're going uphill and I'm going out of breath.
Same.
But yeah, what are your thoughts, man? Like the people who, I guess what I'm going to go with this now is, what inspires you? Are you inspired by photographers who are similar in style to you, or are you expose yourself to different styles of photography?
That's a good question. I think for me in general, not just about in photography, but in anything that I'm passionate about, what inspires me the most is progress.
Progress?
Yeah. So if I can see myself leveling up the more I shoot, learning more, applying more, and then being able to get similar photos to someone I might have seen a few years ago, I'm like, how did they do that? And then now I know how to do it. Those types of things is what inspires me. And of course, great artists and photographers around the world who take amazing photos, who inspire me to just go out and shoot and figure out how they did it, and then find my own unique way to do that.
Man, I love that. Can I just say, like, instead of comparing yourself to others, you're comparing yourself to your previous version. You're comparing yourself to your yesterday self.
Yes.
You're just going, am I getting better at the art that I'm passionate about? Am I getting better at photography? as opposed to going, am I as good as so-and-so? Am I getting as good as so-and-so? I think comparison is the killer of joy in life.
I think so-and-so could definitely lead you to look into a specific way of shooting or a style that might intrigue you. But at the end of the day, you need to make it your own. So it's not like I'm going to be exactly like one of the photographers I really admire. It's more, how do I learn the concepts that they apply, the elements that they bring into their photos? How can I understand the process and then apply that to my creative vision, I would say.
I love that, man.
The topic of the community you're trying to build again, I think that's quite important. And there needs to be more of that, especially in Sydney. For people to just learn from each other, right? Everyone's got busy lives, everyone's got their own thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm shooting by myself, but like having a group of people to connect to with the same passion, I think is so important. So it's definitely great that you're building that community, and
appreciate that.
I'm keen to understand like your thoughts of like the future and the vision of where you want to take this community. Yeah.
This was not planned.
Very
Thank you. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, not the other way around. I can't take credit for this, to be honest with you. It was Perry. I don't know if you'll be watching this or not. Perry reached out to me. Where do you want to walk, by the way? You want to walk that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Perry Streets Australia is the Instagram handle, I think, if I got that right, Perry.
Yeah.
I started shooting black and white in May of last year. I didn't even know I was technically shooting street photography. Perry reached out to me to, I guess, share some of my photos on his Instagram account.
Nice.
And I was obviously surprised and honored. I'm like, oh, someone wants to show my photos to other people. Okay.
That's an amazing
Thank
feeling.
you. And I saw the hard work he was putting together, because he was sending questions to people, he was collecting answers, and he was sharing it with the community that is still growing. He still is putting events together, getting people out to drink, which is really hard to do, right? Like you said, we're all time poor, we all have busy lives. Some of us have children that we gotta obviously help support and raise as parents. So it's a nod to Perry, to be honest. And I thought to myself, what can I do that will help the community grow? Perry's only one, I'm only me, and I think the community together is stronger. There is some amazing people, as I said to you earlier before we start filming, I said there are some incredible photographers that live in Sydney, live in Melbourne, Brisbane, anywhere in Australia, and there's photographers who live globally, obviously, but they don't have the same reach as a Phil Penman does, or a Knox Birdie, or Jesse Marlowe, or Alan Schiller. Like these are photographers who, I'm quoting here, air quoting here, they've made it. Right? They're with Leica, they're with Canon, they're with Fuji, they're ambassadors of big brands, and they've got a large following already, but their stories have been heard multiple times, right? I was sharing this with you. Knox Birdie, I'm a big fan of his work. Knox, if you ever end up watching this video, I love his work. I think he's a genius. I think he's got a very unique style. But I've listened to his story probably 3 or 4 times on different podcasts, on his Leica Academia interviews, and it's the same story. And that's, I don't think, going to change very much over time. So what about your story? What about Perry's story? What about other photographers who live in Tokyo, who don't get the chance to have their voices heard, or people who live in Europe who are making incredible photos, but they don't have the same platform as the really well-known photographers do. So that's where the idea came from. It was inspired by Perry. So all credit is due to Perry, to be honest, to Perry, if I'm being honest. And I just thought it'd be really fun if I took that one step further and did a walking and talking, which is, again, being done in New York by Polly B, who's doing the walkie-talkie, the OG, and I'm doing the coffee and cameras because, well, we're in Australia, we love our coffee.
CNCs, I like it.
CNC, exactly. That's where it came from. And, you know, because of Perry, I've met some other photographers who are street photographers, if we can, I guess, put everyone under the same umbrella. And I've got some incredible friends now, you know, John, Ben, and I'm meeting more people because of this. And I love that. I love that I can meet people, give them a platform to share their thoughts, their processes, their views, their philosophies.
Yep.
I think it's really important that we all have a voice that can be heard by other photographers and anyone who's interested in photography. I think it's an incredible art form. I would hope that my children would also pick up a camera one day. They do now.
For sure.
But yeah, enough about me. That's enough talking from me. So that's
really interesting, and I think you're definitely headed in the right direction to build that group of people and share knowledge, share ways of thinking and approaching things. I think that's really important, and it's definitely going to help others grow and learn new things that they're not doing today.
I hope so, man. I hope so, because you know, sometimes people might think this is a competitive art, and I know it's really hard to make it as a photographer, so to speak, because the entry into photography is quite easy these days. Everyone's got a smartphone in their pockets, and they can take a photo with that. And digital cameras are really easy to use these days. But on the other hand, I just feel like it's an incredible art form that a lot of us use as an escape from reality. Not in a bad way, in more of a meditative way, as a way of, I feel like it's an art that you can't never be perfect at. You just always have to keep improving on, which gives you resilience, gives you a muscle to kind of build and work on.
For sure.
I mean, I can only imagine even people like Phil Penman, who's been doing this for 15 years. Hope I'm not lying when I say I'm sure he still feels like there's days where he's learning something new and different.
And that, I think, ties back into the whole progress chat we were having before. It's around what is that next thing to look out for and consciously do when taking photos, right? It's like, do I look out for more shadows, or do I look out for more highlights, or do I expose things differently? And like, the more you do those things, the more you learn. And it always helps when you have people to give you the feedback as well, because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I think that's the other thing about community, is having a place where, like you said, I can learn from somebody else.
Yes.
Sharing these ideations, sharing these workflows. Yeah, go that way. I think it's really important. There's a lot of upcoming photographers that may not have access to a community because they're in a small town, or don't know a community exists. And you know, Instagram isn't what it used to be. I'm trying my best to make it a more fun place for all the photographers.
Definitely required.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you for asking and listening.
Of course.
And thank you for sharing yours as well. It's been good to hear your thoughts and finally catch up with you after all this. We're back. We're probably going to do a wrap up now. We took a little break to shoot around Walsh Bay. Let me just pan around really quick, give everyone a bit of a tour of Sydney. There's a rocket that I'm going to get in to get home from. Just kidding. Dad jokes. All right. We talked about quite a few things today. We talked about how photography can evoke emotion, and it's been a common theme with quite a few people I've spoken to. Talked about your style quite a bit as well. We talked about how you like to shoot and the scene you hang out at. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up? Any advice, any thoughts, anything you want to share with the people watching?
I guess it's just keep shooting, keep finding people with like-minded interests and passions, and then learn from each other. Keep sharing your work, and again, add to the community. I think it's all about building that, not just about doing it on your own. It's learning from each other. And I'm keen to do this again. You know, I'm keen to learn from other people and meet new people around Sydney and around the world, and see where it goes.
We've got a photo walk. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I'll send you the details, but I've organized a photo walk for Sydney people.
Okay, let's do it.
And yeah, hope to see you there, man. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the time.
Cheers, man.
See you soon. Bye.
See ya.